Jane, how are you?
I'm just fine.
It's
How are
good
you?
to I am doing well. Good to see you and look forward to Sunday.
Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, maybe during the show we may make a mention of an upcoming event. So be ready to share what you know.
Okay.
For sure. I wanted to do, we're live, by the way, but I wanted to do announcements because I know there's a lot of great events happening. So I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to share what they have going on in the community. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Facebook Live. Tonight, our topic is budget, resources, and focus 2024. I did send out some documents that I think are important for people to have so that you can know what the plan has been for the Clark County School District. Since we're heading into 2024, we want to see if we've reached some of those goals in the district. We don't have to have like a big robust conversation around it, but if there's any questions or anything that caught your eye in the community, then we can talk about it, discuss it, and go from there. I would like to introduce Rodney, the co-host for our show, and then we do have some guests on who I would like to introduce themselves as well. Rodney?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rodney Smith, and I am here in support of Sister Kamilah Bywaters, who is running for school board trustee of District E. And she thought it would be a great idea for people to have an opportunity to engage with her before the campaign trail, thus this show. And every Monday night from 6 to 7 p.m. So please tell a friend. If you have questions, send it to us in advance if you can, or just join in with the show and let's learn about our school district. After all, whether we have a child in school or not, most of us are taxpayers.
That is right. That is right. Definitely. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? It's up to you. You don't have to, but we would love for you to.
I'll jump in. My name is Antoinette Slaughter. I am here in support of Kamilah. I know she cares for not only educators, but she cares for the community, and I am here to support her as we all should.
Thank you. You're so sweet and kind.
And I'm Jane Audette. I'm also here to support Kamilah and also Rodney always. And to learn. I feel like I'm still really new to the game, but I have a huge interest in public school advocacy work. So I'm in the learning place. So I'm here to listen and learn.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, we're thankful that you're here today. And if anything comes up, even if you want to share like a personal experience or anything like that, like this is the space for it. I think it's a great opportunity for us just to get together, talk about education, and most importantly, get to know me as a candidate. Again, for those who are just joining in, my name is Kamilah Bywaters. I'm running for the Board of School Trustees in District E, which is the Summerlin area, some of Blue Diamond, and some of Spring Valley. And I think it's really important that as we are heading into 2024, which is a very important election year, and I feel like we say that every year, but it is like true every year, that it is very important. We are in a battle for school boards across our country, and it's really important that the community knows how the people who are running for office, how we think, what are our ideologies, what are some of the things that we're passionate about? How do I think? How will I make decisions? So I think it's important that you have this opportunity to get to know me. If you followed my work, you know that I'm an advocate within educational system. Not only do I support students and their families within public schools, but also in private and charter schools. So if you followed me, you know that I'm not afraid to hold leaders accountable. And I think that's where right now where we are specifically in education, we are at a tipping point. It's like we have to change something now immediately because we cannot continue to continue a system of education that is okay with our students not being as successful as they can be. 19.4% of our high school students are proficient in math. And we, as the adults, we are the ones who are responsible for that. And I just want to do my part, share my intellectual property, as some would say, share my education, share my knowledge, share my research, so I can help to move this district forward.
Wow, Sister Kamilah, when you said 19.4%, not even 20%. So when we think of the 80-20 rule, what you just said is we don't even meet Pareto's theory of the 80-20 rule. When I was in high school, the teachers there and the administration used to say that even if you didn't try, even if you didn't attend class, you probably could get at least a 39. But you just said 19%. Now, what I would ask, if you know, are we on a downward curve or are we on a upward slope? Where are we? What is the trend?
It's going down. Yeah, and there's a lot of things that have happened, and we've lost students as well. But that has definitely gone down. And speaking of the Focus 2020, the Focus 2024 plan did have a goal for where they wanted to see proficiency rates and where they wanted to see graduation rates. And I don't know if you all saw, but there was like a big hoorah about the graduation increase. But thinking minds would say, well, hold up, how does that make sense if our proficiency scores are low, but then graduation is, kind of going up higher? That doesn't really, what that tells me is that we have students who are graduating who are not proficient.
So on that point, do we have data that shows, we have 90%, well, we'll go max it out for easy math. We have 100% graduation rate, but of that 100%, only 20% are actually proficient. Do we have any, and I'm using extremes here, but do we have any data that tells us what is the product that's graduating?
When you say what is the product, what do you mean specifically?
So, and maybe that's not the most politically correct way to say it, but our schools have a responsibility to, according to the Focus 2024 plan, they have an objective of 90% graduation, right? And which is good. But so that's the product, is the graduate. Well, right. If we are meeting that, let's say we were meeting that 90% threshold. So then the next thing, going back to your point, is, are we just pushing people through the system, or are we actually educating the people that are a part of that 90% threshold that they're aiming for?
Right. So let me show you really quick the Nevada accountability portal. And, I love to share resources, and I think it's important that our community knows like where they can look to find this data. So this is the Nevada accountability portal. Contrary to what some people believe, is I just say hot smoke. She don't know what she's talking about. I'm like, well, I got it from you, CCSD. Here's the information right here. So this is the 2022-2023 Clark County School District at a glance. And as you can see, graduation rate 81.31%. And then if you look down here at the bottom, you see the ELA, which is English Language Arts proficiency. And it shows you the proficiency for elementary, middle, and high school. And then when you go to math proficiency to the right, you see elementary, middle, and high, and there's your 19.4%. So those are the individuals that are increasing graduation.
So in the math proficiency, it seems that the longer that the child is in school, the worse they're getting in math.
It looks like it, yeah. That's it. It's kind of on a downhill.
And but we're still graduating those children at an 81.31 percentage rate. Something just doesn't sort of match there for me. And then as I look at ELA proficiency, I see that 40%. Then in middle school it drops down to 38, and then it takes a big leap all the way up to 46% in high school. So it's good to see that they've gotten better in high school, because that's right before they join the adult world. But 46% is still below 50%. So less than half of our children are ELA proficient, and not even 20% are math proficient, but we have an 81.31% graduation rate. What am I missing? Because there seems to be a missing link in this picture.
Mm-hmm. There is a missing link. I'm going to have to go back and just do my official research on this, but I believe there were some changes in the grading policy. But I need to go back and find that information to make sure that's like a definite statement. But I remember having some conversations around that at a school board meeting. And one thing I do want the community to know is that when you come on here to look at data for Clark County School District, you can drill this down by every school and get all of the information for every school. You can get it by demographic, so you can see like who exactly by demographic profile are at what rates.
So, Sister Kamilah, that brings up another question.
Mm-hmm.
We have magnet schools, we have academies, we have regular schools, we have charter schools, we have private schools. Now, when we look at all of these, so for example, does a magnet school does it have the same levels as a regular non-magnet school? Does an academy do as good as a magnet school or better than a regular school? And then do charters do better than all of those regular public schools? And do private schools do better than all of them? Is there any data on those?
There is. And so within the Clark County School District, we have CCSD sponsored charter schools. Now, oftentimes what people think is they're like, oh, a charter school, whether it's within CCSD or outside, or whether it's a part of the charter authority board. Sometimes people think, oh, it's a charter school, so it's going to be better. That's not necessarily the case. And we do have, there was a report that just came out, but I will find the data for the charter schools specifically, but they are not doing extremely better than public schools. And I would like to add that charter schools are really failing when it comes to educating students with disabilities. I have had a chance to work at a charter school, and it was horrifying. I hear stories all the time still today about charter schools, and they are not at all up to par with charter schools. But what's happening is because there's such a focus on Clark County School District, charter schools are under the radar. But there is data to show, and I think we can get the data as we continue talking. I'll check to see if we can get that from the Nevada Accountability Portal, which I believe that I can, about charter schools, and we can look at their data as well.
So the reason why I bring this up is because we're seeing a growing number of charter schools in the Valley, which is a little concerning because that involves funding. And tonight we're talking about budgeting. So with all of these new charter schools opening, it makes me curious as to how does it impact the actual funding for regular schools, public schools. But also there's a large number of charter schools that seem to open up in the African American community. And if it's helping, great. But the question is it really helping? Is it making a difference?
Right.
Or are people just so desperate because they're frustrated with the regular public schools that they're willing to try anything to help their children learn?
Possibly. But guess what? I just found it. I just found the data for charter schools. So let's look at that really quick.
Okay.
And it is on the Nevada Accountability Portal. You can get it from there. Let me make this bigger. Like, all these things are in the way.
Wow,
So
80
right here,
schools.
So here is the 2022-2023 State Public Charter School Authority at a glance. And I'm moving up too much here. So you can see the graduation rate, the enrollment, number of schools, and you can see the English language arts, which is ELA proficiency, and the math proficiency.
Okay, so we see that the graduation rate is slightly higher, not by much, which I'm a little surprised. Um, Absentee rate is a little lower, so that's good. And when we get down to ELA, we see that they start out at, it sort of levels out right around that 54%. So it doesn't seem to change as they're progressing, but it is higher. And then when we get to math proficiency, it jumps up. Well, in elementary school, it starts out well, but then it takes a downhill slide in middle school. And in high school, we get down to 25%. So overall, the numbers are a little better, but not quite as much as I thought it would be.
Yeah, yeah. And I see one of my colleagues, Dr. Ellis, he responded to one of the questions, but he did say that many school districts are now forcing teachers to give passing grades, regardless of their performance. And that was specifically about schools in Austin, Texas. And that same thing is happening here because it was a really big controversy at our school board meetings from teachers.
Now, is that an official policy here, though?
I'm gonna have to go back and find it.
Because I've heard that also, and I think it is important if we know whether it is an official policy. Is it a wink, wink, and a nod type of thing, where they're kind of pushing teachers to do it without actually saying it? Or, like I said, is it official? And if it is official policy, number one, you as a candidate, what do you think about it? But just as importantly, for those who are listening, what do the listening audience think about children just sort of passing through school?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I am going to go back to see if that was an official policy that passed within our Clark County School District. As a professional student, I'm in school still, trying to be done and hopefully stay done. I do think it is important that students are challenged, that they have effective teachers who can help them through those challenges, but we should not be passing students because they just put their name on the paper, because we're doing them a disservice when they go out into the world. Because if I'm saying that only 19.4% of my high school students are proficient in math, and then I'm sending them out in the world to count change, to just take care of their own well-being, their own financial literacy, there's going to be some struggles there. And I think a school system does students a disservice by leading with that type of mentality that we should just let students pass. For me, the onus is on the leaders and the teachers to provide effective instruction. And I know oftentimes, education is challenging. If you've ever been a teacher, it is probably one of the hardest jobs ever in life. And I know Miss Antoinette has had her hand up for a while, so I do want her to chime in, and she can definitely talk about her experiences. But being a teacher is very hard, but I do not think that we need to pass students on because it's challenging or it's difficult. What teachers need to do is raise the bar and raise the standard to ensure that they're teaching students effectively. Antoinette?
Thank you. So I'm looking at the chronic absenteeism, and I want to pose the question when we're talking about charter schools, is it inclusive of kids that are online? And is that a fair and accurate, are those fair and accurate numbers? If we're including them being online, how are we evaluating their absenteeism?
When I taught on Zoom, if the student showed up on the Zoom, that counted as a present. So I think they're being counted as present in school, unless they're not logging into the Zoom. But and I think what the broader conversation, and we have a virtual school here in Clark County School District. And also, I'm finding out that when students get in trouble, they're being asked to do their classes online, which has not been effective because teachers are not online with them doing their class. And that's not an effective way to teach students, and especially students with disabilities. So my argument would be that the whole Zoom revolution that we had during COVID-19 may not be the most effective model for every student. And especially if we're asking students to be online, do their work without a teacher present. Because now at this point, they're college students. And, you know, even though in college we still get educated by our professors, but at this point, they're self-learning. And the school district hasn't taught them. So yes, this is happening.
So so I just want to make sure that as a John Q. Public person here, what do you mean when you say that you said sometimes when students get in trouble, they're online learners. I get it. They need to be removed from general population, I guess, almost like they're in jail, but they need to be removed out of that situation. But it sounded like you said there's no teacher present. So
no.
How are they getting the instruction, or if they have a question, maybe they don't understand something, how do they maneuver through that?
So from some of the complaints that I hear, if a child gets in trouble and they're asked to do online learning, their teacher is supposed to give them their assignments via online, and the students are supposed to do the work. However, most of the times, children's families work. So they do not have the support. And what I've been told is that oftentimes the students aren't completing their work because they don't have the support to do the work. Like the teacher is supposed to teach. So, yeah.
All righty. Sometimes when I hear things, if I didn't hear it from reliable sources, I might not believe them.
Right.
And, you know, when I think about as taxpayers, one of the things that we guarantee our children in this country is a free education.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to me that a part of that free education, you have to have a teacher, you have to have some supervision. Otherwise, we're getting a partial education. And that seems to be problematic. Is anybody addressing that? Is it a union initiative? Is it something that the teachers, do the parents as a whole even know that there are children being taught without teachers?
Well, you know, it depends. Some parents may know, some may not know. We had a couple schools that couldn't even have school because we didn't have enough teachers. And you said something interesting. You said, what are we supposed to do? So when I was looking through the Focus 2024 plan on the priority around balanced governance and leadership, one of the objectives was for the Board of School Trustees will devote at least 60% of its time to regular board meetings, progress monitoring, student achievement goals, and key performance indicators. So I would be interested, in my opinion, they haven't spent 60% of time focused in on student achievement. But I would be interested to see if they met that goal. But if you look at the Focus 2024 plan, and this is on page 18, it says the current state as of January 2019 was not applicable. So they hadn't, so that objective was not applicable. And then it has a star by it, and the star says comprehensive data not currently collected, but the goal is for it to be by 2024, 60%. So
but do you hear how absurd that sounds, though? That we have a plan that we say that we're not going to collect data on that plan, and that, we're not implementing well, when is the plan going to be implemented? I thought it said 2024.
Well, it should be implemented because it's 19, 20, 21, 22. It's a 5-year plan that started in 2019. So 2024 is when we should get the results of the plan.
All right, so let me get my fingers out. You did say 2019, right?
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, yeah.
So
from what I have, it says the current state is 2019 and the target is 2024. So we're coming up January 2024 and we're coming up to 2024. So we should be getting the results. Yeah.
okay, I think Jane had a question in chat.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Balanced governance is when it's essentially where power should be distributed equally among the decision makers. And it should include parents, the community stakeholders, and those who are representing diverse voices. And I think that's very interesting because we don't necessarily see all those diverse voices on the board. But that's a people thing that we need to work out. You know, we need our people to come out and vote. But it's basically just making sure that there's a balance of power so that so we ensure that there's fairness within decision making.
So of course that would lead me to the question is, and maybe you just answered it, is there fairness in decision making now?
Right now, our board is a 4-3 split. I would argue that we don't have a balanced governance. I would argue that. But some may counter argue and say, well, the board made their decision and we go with what the board has agreed to. But my concern as an individual who's been a part of board meetings is that there is a perception that there's another meeting happening that's not happening in front of the people. So that is my concern about decision-making. As when I think about a board, our discussions about agenda items should be in front of the people. And Jane's there, she sees it sometimes. I barely ever hear discussions. I'm like, what are you voting on? How do we know this was the thing to vote on? Where's the discussion? I didn't get to hear board member 1 give their ideas or board member 2 give their ideas. So I'm concerned about that. And I have mentioned that one time at the board meeting, and the lawyer had to jump in and was like, wait, let's clarify. And I was like, wait, where's this other meeting? Because that's the one I want to be a part of. So I am a little concerned that there's conversations happening that are not including the totality of the board. And that's something that, to me, that we have to disrupt that, because it's not fair to the community. It's not fair to parents. It's not fair to students. It's not fair to all of us who should have a say in public education.
You know, Sister Kamilah, that's so interesting because I've heard it said that the school board meeting is more of a dog and pony show. The real work is done before, and the real work and the decisions are actually done before the board meeting. And the board, as a matter of fact, I believe it was even Superintendent Jarvis says, if you really want something done, come see me outside of the board meeting, because that's where the real work gets done.
Yeah, I don't understand that, because the board, the superintendent is the employee of the board. So there's a lot of imbalance. There's no balance. And, you know, this is why we have to win back the school board, because if we continue to allow what's happening now to happen, we're not going to have a chance in public education at all. Right now, unfortunately, we do not have, and let me always make this clear, Trustees Cavazos, Zamora, and Guzman. I'm not talking about them. They are for the people. If you need them to come out and do a town hall meeting, they will come and they will talk and they will let you know how they're thinking. But the rest of them, that's not really the case. And the reason they do that is because the community has allowed that type of behavior to happen. There is this thought out there that I necessarily don't agree with, that as a school board member, you don't necessarily have to be familiar with or choose to be connected with the schools in your district. That's not my leadership style. I'm the kind of person who I need to be connected with the community. No, I don't need to micromanage, but the schools in my district should build a relationship with me and should know that, hey, I'm here for you as your advocate, as your voice. I'm here for you. So, and I think that if we continue to allow leaders who are voted in by the people, but then believe that they don't need to be for the people, that we need to disrupt that, and immediately.
Okay, I think we have another. Is there another comment in the chat?
I don't see one, unless, is there some on Facebook?
I think it says placing. This goes back to the question of the students who are maybe taken out of general population for whatever reason and are now taking the online school unsupervised education. It says placing them online allows the district to manipulate suspension data. So is that suggesting that children who might otherwise be suspended, instead of suspending them, you put them in these online classes that are unsupervised? Let me just keep putting that out there. But you put them in these unsupervised online class environments so that it doesn't look like, so it artificially lowers your suspension rate.
Right. Yes, that is. And if the schools have in-house, that's a way, you can not say that students are out of school or missing school because of discipline reason or expulsion. And that the online is also a way to do that as well. So you're correct.
Well, that doesn't sound like it's a good thing. It doesn't sound like it's a good thing for the students, but it also doesn't sound like it's a good thing for society.
Right.
Because if the child is sitting in what is supposed to be an academic setting, but they're not actually being taught, they're being warehoused or they're being removed and put literally to the side. And then so the data can say, look, our suspension rate is actually decreasing. And look, our graduation rate is increasing. Well, yeah, technically that would be true, but it's not a true picture of the achievement that's actually going on in the district with our children. Okay, I think we have another comment from Antoinette. Oh, it's a question. How are we educating children with disabilities online? Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I remember the U.S. Department of Education talking about this. Even during COVID, educating students with disability online was not the way to go. And parents they have rights. Like you can sue because of that. That's not a free and appropriate public education by putting a student with disability online. And Antoinette, you're welcome to talk about your experience or share anything you would like.
So I have experience in that area where I'm actually currently at a school and we are educating kids who are online. They have access to the curriculum without, some of them without actual instructors. So they're taking online classes, and the data shows that we're kind of failing miserably with that with our kids. And as Kamilah said, the parents, make the choice for them to continue on. And it's really heart-wrenching as an educator to see that, because it makes me feel responsible for their failure, although I'm not the person who's in charge of even educating anyone online. But I'm very disappointed to see that.
So, Antoinette, if you can, why is there no teacher? Is there a strategy behind that? What's going on with that? Is there a lack of teachers?
The school that I'm at, I can tell you they have phenomenal teachers. They have a lot of support online tutors during the daytime. The teachers avail themselves. However, a lot of times our kids with disabilities, they just aren't coming and taking and actually completing the classes or even reaching out to get assistance. And I go back to the question, why are we allowing them? I know that we say that the parents have a right to choose. However, when they are failing, at what point are we responsible? We can put it back on the parent, but as educators, for me, it's very heart-wrenching when I see this. It's like, what can I do? It's kind of like your hands are tied because the parents have, make the choice to keep them online, even when they're failing.
Right. And I think that's where I talk about it's a systemic issue of education. We've been doing education for so long, the same way, decade after decade, and it's not, it's designed for people who are privileged. Let's just be honest about it. And those who are not able to maintain and sustain themselves in this type of educational environment are going to be the ones who are the have-nots. And that's why I say at the point when we see within public schools, when our leadership, Superintendent Jara, who is the operational supposedly guru, at the point when we saw that students with disabilities are failing at this high level, compliance issues are up. I mean, we just had millions of dollars paid to families because their students were not treated appropriately in school. The minute that we saw that things were failing, and I know we have Focus 2024, but that's why I have this, that we don't have meaningful change. We just have a bunch of checklists. Focus 2024 right now to me is a checklist to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do to look good, but what did we accomplish? And this is when it becomes the board's responsibility to ensure that their one employee is maintaining an organization that is thriving. And if you're not doing it, you don't get to keep the job. If we're not performing, now I know if I don't perform in my job, I will not be working there. I will be on probation. I'll get written up. Like I have been written up before because I didn't perform to however the person thought I should have performed. But our school board is not holding our superintendent accountable to improving student achievement, to ensuring that we have specialists who are able to do the job efficiently, to ensure that we have a math department that is working effectively to ensure that our students' math scores improve. This is a failure of our school board and a failure of our superintendent.
So there's a question in the comments section that suggests that many teachers are frustrated because they don't feel like they're frustrated because they feel there's a lack of support from administration and leadership. Does any of the educators want to share their thoughts on that? Okay, so if somebody does chime in, Sister Kamilah, go ahead.
No, it definitely is a true statement. I think we see the battle right now happening with the Clark County School District superintendent and teachers. Like, that's the worst battle in the world to have, with teachers who we need to come to work every day, who work beyond their hours of work that they're paid for, which is what we agree to as teachers. We agree to our salary, and if you work more than what the required time is, you don't get paid extra. So I think that the superintendent failed with trying to build that camaraderie with teachers when there was this back and forth fight about salary. And, for me, one of the roles of the superintendent is not to say, oh, we don't have this money, but you know what am I going to do as the operational leader of this district to get the money? Do I need to make sure that I'm writing plans and at the legislature to ask for more support? Do I need to ensure that my staff is writing grants? Like, to me, that's not the answer to the problem. And that this is why I believe it is absolutely fundamental that the next superintendent, when we will have one, the next superintendent that we have is a person who can solve problems. We don't get anywhere in life by saying, oh, this is not going to happen. Well, it did happen because $250 million was given from the governor. We had unprecedented money given from COVID-19. But instead of using money towards teacher salaries, our superintendent decided to buy, and I know I always say this, I'm like beating it, decided to buy the tutoring program called Paper, which was like $50 million. Like, why would you buy a virtual tutoring program for students online when you have teachers who have master's degrees and PhDs and bachelor's degrees in education who could have used that 50 million, 55 million, whatever $million it was, give them the extra money to teach the students or increase their salary with that money. So no, the superintendent has not done a great job of supporting teachers. There is still a culture of retaliation. It's a culture of violence. Let's just be honest. It is a culture of violence. I have teachers, students, families, and administrators. Administrators call Tracy and myself to tell us about the hardships that they are encountering in schools. Do you know, and I got to go look at my teacher file too. Teachers, go check your teacher file, because I can guarantee some of you that there's stuff in your file you don't even know about. That is the culture of violence and that I am talking about, and harm that is happening to people. I just got done looking at someone's teacher file, and half the stuff in there they didn't even know was in there. That is acceptable. So no, there's no trust. There's no trust, and there's no system of accountability. I cannot have a person who is, and I think I saw Felicia on here too, but I can't have a person evaluate me who doesn't appreciate me as how you doing my evaluation. There's no system of accountability. It's a culture of retaliation. Some teachers may have a great, and I don't want to say that this is happening to everyone because it's not, but there are a large population of people who are not being supported. You can't speak your voice. You can't share that you're an educated teacher with a master's and a PhD and a bachelor's degree. You can't share that. You can't advocate for your students without being the person now who is the target at the school. They're writing you up secretly. And that is a culture of harm that is being allowed in this district. And how do I know? Because I see it at the school board meeting. Yeah. Superintendent Jar won't even look at you, some of us when you're speaking. That sometimes they're up there rolling their eyes, not paying attention to what the community is saying. So if it's happening at the top, it's happening at the next level below. I sent out an email on behalf of a family, still haven't got a response back. Still, because the customer service is piss poor. They don't care. Why? Because we have school board members. Who are allowing this madness to happen.
So, Sister Kamilah, and I think there's somebody that wants to chime in. Before you chime in, I just wanted to point out, in the Focus 2024 plan that we're talking about tonight, a part of one of their goals is customer service. A part of their mandate, from their own words, is about equity and the relationship with teachers, administrators, and so forth. So this Focus 2024 plan that the district has put out, that it's supposed to be operating under, that it says it's not collecting data on, which I'm still trying to figure out how that's working, but it seems like they're not even abiding by their own goals that's in black and white. Now, I think we have someone that wants to comment, Sister Kamilah.
I have a question. My question is, what is the Mr. Jarvis' resume? What application did he fill out? How do we know he's qualified? Why did they hire him?
There was a big, I don't have the answer, the pinpointed
Okay.
answer for that, but it was a controversy during that time. You know who has a really good story about that? What's my, goodness gracious, my journalist, goodness gracious. I think I did this last week too.
Not Tiffany.
No, not Tiffany. Goodness gracious, I did it again. But there's a good story. There's a good story about what happened with that. It was a big mess.
Okay.
I think they were trying to get done so quickly. But from what I've heard is that this superintendent was not qualified, does not have the skill set to do this job. So that's what the thought and the belief was, but they didn't have the votes to go another direction. But let me get the story and I'll make sure that I have it for next time.
How do they not have? You can't put someone temporary. You just can't shove someone in this position to be over all these people and all these children, and then now we're failing, and he gets some kind of an award. And then I asked one of the trustees, and she said, "Well, we didn't give it." Well, if he's getting an award, and people see that, people don't know that the board, the harem up there didn't give it to him. We're thinking that if he has an award, you guys must have gave him an award.
Right. And you know what? That's the smartness that he has to do. I mean, he has to do that. He has to, because he has to balance out his resume, because he gets a lot of slack from the state of Nevada. There's a lot of slack for him about the piss poor job that is happening. So it would behoove him to try to find some places where he could get some accolades from people who don't know him like we know what's going on. So, yeah, but I agree with you.
So we have about 6 active minutes left in the show. And before we leave, if anybody has any announcements, hopefully we'll be able to get to you. But because we do have limited time, if we can keep the comments as condensed as possible, as well as the questions. And we were talking about, the idea was to talk about budgeting and this Focus 2024, the plan that is the plan that we're not actually using the plan. And at some point, that should be, somebody needs to bring it up, that we have a plan that's supposed to take us someplace that we're not even using. So if we have a plan to take us someplace that we're not using, are we headed to that place? I mean, if you cannot tell, I'm a little confused by the plan that we're not using as a plan. Also, budgeting. There's a comment that says that, you know, there's a mass exodus of teachers, and I thought it was about money, but what I was told, it was that teachers are getting frustrated because they feel like they're not getting supported by the administrators. They're having to work extended hours that that they're not able to get paid for, which seems like a budgeting issue to me. And also the number of certified teachers that we're lacking, and that we have, I think it's called long-term temps in these positions. Well, looking at the dollars and cents, if long-term temps don't get paid what licensed teachers get paid, and we have an exuberant number of long-term temps, then that tells me that there's probably a surplus of money someplace, because it's obviously not going to the certified teachers, because we have a bunch of long-term temps and subs.
I heard temps are getting $225 a day. So I mean, subs are getting $225 a day
at some schools. Wow. The the schools that are highly need for subs, the Transformation Network, and then there's a few schools outside of the Transformation Network, subs can get $225 a day. But if you look on page, this is because it was the plan for the 5 years. If you look on page 3 of the Focus 2024 plan, you can see how the money is dispersed throughout transportation, general infrastructure, general administration, central services. You can see like how the pie is broken up. And it looks like a lot of the money goes to, it says that most of the money, over 59% of the money goes to instruction. And which is accurate because they buy a lot of software. And I think there was an email about some new history curriculum coming out. So if you look at the Follow Focus 2024, and right now, what we need to see is what the evaluation will look like when the Board of School Trustees does the evaluation for the superintendent based on this Focus 2024. Did we accomplish the goals and by how much?
So, Sister Kamilah, is there some matrices built into this project or Focus 2024 plan that tells how to score it for success? Or
No.
do they pull it out the seat of their pants? How does that work?
I don't see how they're measuring it. It does not say anything about measurement. Maybe when they do the evaluation, maybe they'll talk about measurement, but that's been a complaint that we've had often. What is the measurement tool? So I don't know. They haven't really showed that in here.
So from this discussion today, I'm a little frustrated because these are our children, and whether I have children in the district or not, it's still our children. And as adults, we have a responsibility for this education. And what I'm hearing tonight is that there's a plan that's supposed to help in that the district isn't even using, that's supposed to be evaluated, but there's no evaluation matrices to determine whether that functions. We don't even know how much this plan costs. So we're possibly spending money for a plan that we're not using, that there's an evaluation that we don't even know how that evaluation works.
Right. And I do want to make certain that I say that for the academic portion of it, they would be using the standardized testing. So seeing how students have improved over time. So for that, they will use standardized testing. Now, all these other measurements, like where they go from like nothing, 0% to 60% in regards to board governance and how they're evaluating that, there's no measurement that's posted on this Focus 2024 plan. And January is when the deadline, January 2024 is the deadline. So hopefully we'll see the matrices.
So we're talking less than a month. We're supposed to get a report on the plan that we're not even collecting data on as of yet.
They might be collecting data on it, but we haven't seen an update. So hopefully we'll see it in January.
Okay, well,
it should be used as and we know one of the last evaluations that Superintendent Jara had, it was literally 3 pages. I don't understand how you do that, but we'll see how accountable he's held to the plan.
All right, well, we're coming down to our final 5 minutes of the show. So if anyone has a question or comment, now is definitely your time to get in it. I want to give a quick proposal to the budgeting process, that we determine how many teachers that we need for the children that we have, and that we determine what an equitable salary is for the teachers, and that's what we put in the budget for teacher pay. Not what we think we can get, but what we actually should get. Also, I would like to include in the budgeting process, what do we want a 12th grade graduate to be equipped with? In other words, what skill sets, what knowledge, how are they prepared to go into the world? Have we reviewed that recently? Are we even graduating children with the skill sets for this 21st century? And if not, why not? And are we budgeted for it? Even simple things like many college graduates who've gone through the CCSD tell me they don't understand our political system because they didn't really get taught it in school. Well, should they be taught that in school? And if so, if we're not, then when are we going to start? And of course, there's a dollar figure with that. So I think that if we want to have equitable, because that's what it says in the plan, equitable, if we want to have an equitable education for our children, at some point we need to determine what does it really take to bring that to fruition. And then our budgeting process should be around that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to say before I chimed in? I think we're all.
When did they stop requiring a second language?
Say that again, Felicia.
When did they stop requiring a second language for high school students? I thought we had to have a second language when I graduated.
Yeah, I remember that too. I did too. I don't know. I don't know when they stopped that. Look.
Yeah, they keep making us putting us behind the 8 ball. Yeah. We gotta speak up. We gotta get together and speak up. You know, I don't want to offend Tracy, but I remember when I was a kid, they used to say they go crazy. Her mom, they go crazy on the news. Her mom had a point. She had the community behind her, speaking up, making some noise. People not making enough noise about this education system.
Well, that is partly why we have this show with Sister Kamilah, who's running for a school board trustee, so that there can be communication. So there can be communication between her and the community and her, and what we want her to do when she wins that race. It's hugely important that she gets that dialogue from the people, but it cannot just be talk. There has to be support to ensure that she gets elected. And then once elected, we have to show up at those school board meetings, or according to JARA, whatever the meetings are where the real business happens, we need to be there, and we need to have people from the community there that'll fight for us. Before we close out, does anyone have any quick announcements that they would like to make on upcoming events? And we got about a minute. Jane, do you have one?
Why, sure. Help me out, Rodney. So Sunday afternoon at the West Library, we are going to have a screening of Stamped from the Beginning, the Netflix documentary, followed by discussion. So we're hoping that folks will check out and show up and be part of that process. The more folks weigh in, the more we learn from each other.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
Do you have a flyer?
Yes, let me see if I can get the link real quick here.
Okay, if you can get it, if you can put it in the chat, that would be awesome. And we are right at 7 o'clock. So, Sister Kamilah, do you have closing remarks? And what are we going to talk about next Monday?
I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but I don't know yet. I don't know yet. We'll think about it and then I'll post it out. But thank you everyone for joining today. It really means a lot to me that you would take time out of your day to have an important conversation about education. As I continue to say, if we cannot rally around our students and their education, then there's really no hope for us as a community, as a thriving people. I really believe wholeheartedly that education, just having a basic foundation of education, is a game changer for all of our lives. It really is. Education has afforded me opportunities that I would have never imagined. And I do believe that we are responsible to our young people. Even though some of them may have challenges, we're still responsible to them. And it is our adult problem, the reason that we have challenges in education. And I'm really passionate about our students. I'm passionate about their families. And I look forward to having more conversations so you can get to know me, understand my passion and love for education. My name is Kamilah Bywaters. I'm running for the Board of School Trustees in District E, and I look forward to your support in 2024. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night, everybody.